Many here will be familiar with the work of the Nuffield Foundation and our work on building evidence in social policy and public services, but for new people, and there are a few I've seen, we are an independent charitable trust established by the industrialist William Morris, who was Lord Nuffield. Our mission is to advance social wellbeing and educational opportunity across the UK. We just celebrated our 75th birthday, and last year we launched a 5-year strategy, not something this organisation has tended to do, at least not since its early days when those things were more fashionable. We set out our focus for funding research in 3 domains: education, welfare and justice. But we also are the funder and co-funder and founder of the Nuffield Council on Bioethics, which examines and reports on ethical issues in biology, medicine and public health, and we're now setting up the Ada Lovelace Institute to perform a similar function for data and artificial intelligence. We also run student programs, providing opportunities for young people in sixth forms, further education, colleges and universities to gain skill and confidence in quantitative and scientific methods. Now, across our work, we start from the position that successful policy and practice needs to be informed by evidence of the highest quality and rigour, and whether that relates to improved understanding of the issues facing society in those domains of interest or the means of addressing them. And as well as being a funder, we play an active convening role, bringing that evidence to those who are making and informing decisions, and allowing the research that we fund and its implications to be discussed and road tested. Now, this positioning at the interface between research, policy and practice is absolutely reflected in the attendance today. It's great to have people from the department, for example, who I know are thinking very hard about this particular issue and will shortly be producing some recommendations. Now, in our education research, we've identified 5 interlocking areas of interest for our research over the next few years. One is early years education and childcare. The second is the skills and attributes that equip children and young people for life and work in a rapidly changing world, whether that's language, numeracy, scientific inquiry, analytical thinking, digital capabilities. The third is young people's choices, destinations and pathways at key points in their progression through education and training. We've done a lot of work in the past on access to higher education and the way that higher education is funded and other aspects of it. We're now moving our interest into other areas of the post-16 landscape, in particular vocational technical skills. The fourth is the prevalence and interrelationships between various forms of educational disadvantage and different types of vulnerability faced by children and young people who are at risk of falling behind in learning. And the one I've saved for last is perhaps the most important, since it infiltrates all of the others, and that's around the quality of teaching experienced by children and young people, which makes a substantial difference to their educational outcomes, their future employability, and to their life chances more broadly. Now, with any given cohort of teachers, there are many ways that we can help raise quality of teaching. We can improve the evidence based on effective practice, for example, through running control trials. We can develop better teaching resources, including those exploiting digital technologies. We can help support teachers and restructure how they spend their time so they're more focused on students' learning and development and less on peripheral activities like data input or compensating for shortfalls in social work, other areas like that. And we can improve opportunities to learn from each other, for teachers to learn from each other and from outstanding practitioners. The work we fund does all of those things, but driving up quality is nearly impossible if the labour market for teachers is problematic, as we've already heard it is in the UK. Yes, many talented and smart graduates are attracted into teaching and are retained, but not nearly enough. And many think that the number one issue now for education policy, not helped by the rising number of pupils and the shortfalls in teacher trainees, is the one that we all need to focus on, perhaps more than any other. It's particularly acute in certain subjects and in particular geographical areas, and in underperforming schools that are often serving those children that would benefit the most. So that was why we were so keen to support this substantial programme of work undertaken by a real crack team at NFER. They've been able to exploit large national data sets, longitudinal studies, and get really behind the issues. and help us understand what the drivers of change in teacher supply are, employment journeys for individual teachers and the experiences and motivations of those teachers. It's been an incredibly productive project from our point of view. Various reports on Google, but this is the final report, and it's an outstanding piece of work, which I think quite unusually contains and puts up front really hard-edged recommendations, not just for central government, but also for the leaders in the profession, whether those are the national organisations or the MATs or for individual schools. And each of those is backed up by very carefully marshalled evidence and data. Very important suggestions here about increases in teachers' pay needing to be used judiciously by age and stage and subject to help retention as much as recruitment. Various ways of addressing non-pecuniary conditions of work, such as workload and bureaucracy, and the facilitation of part-time opportunities, particularly in secondary schools. That's very important. Very timely contribution, and we hope it will help shape an active and urgent policy response to what some people are calling a crisis. But also, like most of our best work, it will no doubt have a slower burn influence to ensure that we have a school workforce that can provide the highest quality of education for all children and young people.